Or what is happening for you that it feels so scary to like open up your heart again?
What's your advice on how to break free of those patterns?
Every human being on the planet suffers from I'm not good enough. Inform your partner how they can meet you, how they can support you emotionally.
Swipe, move on to the next, and all right, this relationship is done.
You don't know, my parents are not emotionally capable. They do not have the capacity.
People are so closed off with kind of going there emotionally with their parents and their elders.
Every family is broken.
Welcome, Brave Table fam. Welcome to another episode of the Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and this is your destination, your oasis to be all things just a little bit more brave in your actions, in your relationship, and in your life. And this week, my friends, we are braving love relationships. So if you are single, if you are brown, or maybe you're not brown, or maybe you are interested in dating a brown person, or maybe you are in a relationship, but you're curious how to deepen, expand, make that juicy ignition fire up again, then my guest is going to blow you away because she has been doing this work for 15 plus years. She is also South Asian and she is married to a South Asian, and she has devoted time and time again that relationship and love and coming back to love and coming back to the one. And teaching other people how to do that has been kind of her secret sauce. Now, let me tell you a little bit about her. Kavita Jhaveri is a world-renowned love and relationship coach for more than 15 years. She has supported thousands of clients in creating a depth of emotional connection to call in what she calls soul level love, which I love, by the way, soul level love, or to cultivate intimacy in partnerships that so few people experience. She's often called a love intuitive. Kavita uses her practical meets spiritual, watch out, Seema auntie, no nonsense coaching method to teach her clients how to turn inward and identify the roots of what is blocking them in love and intimacy through a process she calls the parent work, which connects familial and generational imprints to patterns that are playing out now. Kavita has been featured in the Huffington Post, Fox News, CBS News, Women's Health Magazine, Women's Day Magazine, Time Out New York, and more. She's also spoken in front of thousands at SOAR by Steve Harvey and the IIN Institute of Integrative Nutrition, Reveal, and more. What you are going to get out of today's episode, we are going to talk about how do we break through relationship patterns? How do we rewire beliefs for healthier love? How can we cultivate self-love for deeper connections? And how familial relationships can actually affect your romantic relationships. Shocker, we might not have realized that. This is gonna be one of those episodes where you're gonna share with a bestie, share with a coworker, share with a friend in your life, maybe watch this with your family, if you are still living with your parents, your elders, and so much more. This is one of the juiciest conversations that I've had on love and relationships this year, so buckle up because it's about to go deep and we are about to get juicy with Kavita Patel on this week's Brave Table. Well, hello, love.
Hi.
All right, as we start every episode, you pulled a card.
I pulled a card.
What is our intention?
So the affirmation.
Yeah, let's do affirmation.
Okay. Is I am a beacon of love. As I grow to love and respect myself, I emanate love to everyone around me.
You sure do. That's why you're the love coach. You're the love queen. All right, let's talk about that because for our South Asian friends, do you think that it's hard for us to find love because we've been indoctrinated by like Bollywood and we're just waiting for Shah Rukh Khan to show up on our doorstep and like whisk us away in the meadows and say the sweet
run for each other.
Run through the meadows of, you know, the marigolds and all of the other yellow flowers. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it. I feel like that's in the culture no matter what. Like, meaning it's not even South Asian. I feel like it's just everyone that has a fantasy of like being chosen, being pursued, you know, and really wanting that like person to complete you, you know?
And why doesn't that work? Can anyone complete us?
Yeah, I think it doesn't work because what happens is that on one level, we're sort of living in this fantasy of what love looks like. And then we're really disappointed when we come up against the reality of partnership and what it takes and the conflict that can occur within it, the stuff that comes up for you within it as you go deeper into commitment and building a family. And so we're kind of jaded by this idea that this one person can be like everything for me, which is just not true. You know, like I've been married for 17 years and my husband is an incredible man and, you know, triggers the shit out of me and I trigger the shit out of him and we have conflict and we've had to work through so much over the last 17 years. And I think like we want it to all feel so easy. And I think there are moments where it can feel easeful. And I think that the focus really needs to be on if you're being met, you know, not really like, is it going to be easy? Is it going to be effortless? Which I think is sort of the main thing that I see so many people like looking for sometimes.
Like, is the relationship going to be easy?
Easy.
And if it's not easy, then I'm going to just shut it down. I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to just, all right, swipe to the next. Is that what we're getting into in this dating culture?
Well, it feels like sometimes that's true. And sometimes people stay in it way too long too, right? Like I'm just going to give like all the different perspectives because it's just like sometimes, yeah. And then there's also like,
you stayed in it for your kids.
Yeah. Or you stayed in it because you really wanted to like convert the other person, you know, into anything. I don't mean like religion, into anything, you know, or you wanted to fix them or they were a project or you wanted them to get something or you were trying to find love from them that you didn't get from your own
parents.
Upbringing. Oh. And so you stay to try to get that and try to get that. Right. So there's
and then you're constantly getting disappointed because that's never going to happen.
Yeah. It's like, if it's not with the right person, it's not going to happen. But when it's with the right person, they can meet you in that. You can co-create that together.
So I want to double click on this really important point because you shared, you know, can you be met in relationship?
Yeah.
And first of all, let's talk about what does that mean?
Yeah.
And how is that different from, you know, the compatibility score that Seema Auntie says that, okay, I want this person, this person, this person, this person. What does it mean to be met in relationship?
Okay, I'm actually gonna come back. I'm gonna answer that, but I'm gonna come back to the first thing that you asked around the South Asian. What I see most is that so many of us are in our heads around what we want. So I literally will go around speaking at all kinds of events and meeting people, and it's literally a checklist of what I want. And
what is it that they want?
Like, I mean, you know, success, handsome, good family that comes from money, well-educated, great job, you know, that, right? Takes care of himself or herself. And so I think I just see so much of that. And then I'll be like asking them questions about, okay, what happened in a past relationship, or because I can see below all of that stuff. Right. And then I'm like, you're not even open. Like you're saying you have this whole checklist of what you want in your mind, but your heart is not open. So whatever you do, you can do it, but if you're not willing to open this up, it's not gonna happen. Like it's not going to happen. And that takes a lot.
Whew. And you're right. And do you think we've got it all wrong because of social media? And so now I think young people have this perception that it has to lead to this like big, like drawn out, like Indian, South Asian wedding with all of the bells and whistles. And there is pressure to kind of have this ideology of what doesn't exist, perhaps because they don't really know what they truly want.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's safety. It's like safety oriented, which is what we're also getting from our families, right? It's like, if I have this checklist, then I will be safe. I will be taken care of. I will be okay. But that doesn't mean that somebody is going to take care of your heart. They may be able to provide. They might be able to like physically give you the things that you want or need. But emotionally, that checklist does nothing for that, right? So kind of coming back to your question around being met.
Yeah. Oh,
That's what that's about, is that when you allow yourself to emotionally open up, which is vulnerable, which will feel unsafe on some level for your system, your nervous system, your body, especially given whatever way you were raised, right? So everybody has some version of this. Nobody doesn't have it. Every single human being has it. But when you are allowing yourself to get to that vulnerability inside of you and let yourself be seen emotionally with somebody, and then you see how they react to that, how they meet you in that space. That's what I mean by being met. That tells you everything, right? That tells you, does this person come and say, oh, like they can hold your emotion to some degree and be like, I'm so sorry you're going through that, and I want to be with you in it. Or are they shaming you for having it? Are they saying, oh, you should just get over it, which is still a common response. And that doesn't mean that the person is not worthy of you per se. But if you feel like that is happening a lot, where you're not feeling met emotionally, you need to look at that. Like,
or they're
look at
gaslighting you, or they're making you feel less than, or they're shaming you, they're guilting you.
Yeah. But sometimes what I do see is that I think everybody does gaslight in some way all the time, even if you're aware of it. I think there's some thing inside of us that goes like, oh, this is uncomfortable, and everybody has something like that and then wants to shut it down on another person, right? So I think we do that. But I think it's more so that if you keep going, because a lot of people will get gaslit and then sort of shut down. And not keep going, not keep expressing, not keep opening because they're scared now, right? But when they allow themselves to keep opening and then they're met, like that's powerful, or not. That's powerful. It's not just by like the first couple of interactions. Do you know what I mean? It's like really allowing yourself to continue to like open up, even though that's terrifying.
It's scary. And I think, what comes to mind when you're sharing all of this is because, and to your work around your method called the parent work, I feel like, can we just go back? Like, we're in our upbringing, were we met in our upbringing? And I think a lot of times it's such a hard and painful thing to then go back to, because oftentimes, in the culture and the diaspora, you're like, no, my parents sacrificed for me. They've done this, they've done this, they've done this. No, I had a beautiful childhood. And then you have kind of these like underwoven effects of, you don't believe in therapy. You've never, it was like a shameful thing you don't even talk about. There's things that we've shoved under a rug. And so the pile is getting pretty big, but then it only comes out in love and relationships, because that's the thing that everybody is searching for and seeking.
Yeah.
And so talk to us about, how do you work with these family dynamics to get into the root of what people are really navigating in relationship?
Yeah.
And finding love and finding the one.
Yeah. I'll use like kind of the example of like being chosen, because I feel like we all want to be chosen,
Oh, that sounds so good.
And so, for example, when I'm working with people, I'll ask them questions about, okay, what did they feel like when they were younger in particular? Because that's when the subconscious formed. And so much of what is now in your patterning in love came from there. Because so many people will say to me, well, it was because I had these other relationships that like failed, or this thing happened. And so that's why I feel like this now. And I'm like, yes and no. Like, that thing happened because of a pattern that you had even before that, which happened with your family of origin, And so when we go there and they can see the connections, they're like, holy shit, like I didn't know that was there, right? So for chosen, for example, I'll ask, okay, how did you feel around your mom when you were younger? How did you feel around your father when you were younger? And they start to explain. Like, okay, yeah, I felt like scared of my dad, or I felt like my mom was the one that was the nurturer for me, or whatever. And then I'll ask questions like, okay, and Did you have a sibling, and how were they with the sibling over you? And so one version of why it feels like maybe you're not being chosen, right? Or somebody doesn't fully accept all of you, or they choose another person over you. And that's happened a couple of times, or they prioritize work over you, right? Is like they grew up with, this is just, again, one version, but they grew up with a family where maybe their mom and dad really were fixated on another sibling that was troubled in some way, whether they're having learning issues or they just needed a lot more attention. And so there was this unconscious translation that occurred that that's more important. Or it might be that the parents were so focused on work and so focused on providing. And so they felt like that was more important. The translation, which is not conscious, is that that's more important than me. And so then that pattern starts to play out, in their love lives.
And do you then think that they're choosing people subconsciously that won't choose them?
Yes. That's basically what's happening, because that feels safe. That's what they've known. That's what they've dealt with their whole life. That's how they've coped, So what feels subconsciously, unconsciously normal is that. And so then you don't even realize, like if you're not even in touch with that idea that this is where this came from inside of me, then how do you even start to shift it? Because it's not just about I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
It's like layers underneath I'm not good enough. Every human being on the planet suffers from I'm not good enough. Like every single human being. It's a human plague thing. So what's the layers below that help you identify what really is happening for you in the energetic field?
So then once you unlock this, because that's a really big, that's a big code that you're helping people unlock. I mean, that's going back and healing like generations and generations. Then what starts to happen and what starts to unfold?
So, what I support people around doing, and this is going to scare a lot of people when I say this, but when I support them, I help them try to have some conversations with their parents.
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay.
We don't have to go too deep into that, but to me, I've been doing this work for a long time. I've worked with every kind of parental situation out there, literally every kind. And the number one thing I hear from my clients is, Kavita, you don't know, my parents are not emotionally capable. They do not have the capacity, And over and over and over again, I've proven people wrong in the most beautiful way, right? Where it's just that there's so many nuances to the way that we relate with our family of origin. But when we go there and literally rewire ourselves from where it began, something changes fast in that process versus just like journaling it out or trying to do the work within ourselves. And the reason I say that is because there are perspectives that you will never have in your own body.
Right.
There are perspectives that even if you were to do, let's just say an ayahuasca journey, you'll get spiritual downloads, but the perspectives of what made your mom who she is, the perspectives of what made your dad who he is, they have that knowledge, the translations they made with their upbringing that they then put on you is in them. And most of us think we know, like I thought I knew everything about my parents. And this is not to blame them. Every parent is doing unconscious acts, it's just, I'm a mother and I try to be as conscious as possible, but there are going to be many ways that I do not meet my son in the way that he needs, because I maybe don't know what that is, And so I meet him in the way that I think he needs. And some of that is projection. Some of that is intuition, but he might be like, no, that doesn't do it for me. And he won't tell me till he's 30, he might not tell me till he's 30. So it's just like, that's going to happen. But when they can share with you like their translations of things, there's something that opens up inside of us, because we start to see like, this wasn't actually about me. This is about like their way of coping in their lives, So there's something transformative about that, but also to be met by them in a more emotional way
Mm-hmm.
is super healing. Like
Oh,
super
of course.
healing.
I can only imagine. And then, on an energetic or a spiritual front, what can that unlock for them as they're
Yes.
doing this process?
Yeah. So it's basically like, patterns just get overturned, right? So if you are single and looking for love, you totally up level. Like basically the way that I describe it is like, if the standard was here and you didn't even know the standard was here, and you start to release this inside of you, and like, even just by identifying it is a huge thing in and of itself. So even if you weren't releasing it per se, just identifying it is massive, right? In and of itself. But the standard goes from here to here automatically in your whole system, right? So the things that you were able to tolerate before that didn't necessarily serve you, you won't tolerate anymore. It just becomes like, no, I desire more, or like, I want more, or I deserve more, and if you're in partnership, because it's the same work, no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're single or in partnership, it allows you to really, it's the same thing in both places anyhow, but like, it allows you to express and connect to what your needs really are, to inform your partner how they can meet you, how they can support you emotionally way more.
And do you think it's just asking a question, or do you think it involves like a sit down, block time, a ritual?
With parents, you mean? Or
no, just even with your current partner.
With your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's like, once you identify some of this stuff, like, it's so powerful to share it with your partner. Like, for example, for me, even I've been doing this, my own parent work process on myself for now 15 years, right? A little bit more than that, I think. But, and so, even just recently through some conflict, I realized, like, remembering how I felt when my parents would be in conflict at times. And then in that conflict, I'd watch my mom a lot. And so she would sort of get depressed after conflict and be in her room. And as a child, I remembered feeling like, where did she go? But she was in the house. I was in the house. And it's not like she didn't feed us and take care of us. She did all those things. But in my experience of it, it was like she was gone, And the pain of that, like the pain of feeling like she was just gone, came out in my relationship with my husband whenever he doesn't sometimes inform me of the things that he's going to be doing that day or that week or whatever in the way that I need. Right. And so, and he's just doing his thing.
Right.
And he'll be like, but I didn't think to even tell you that. And I'm sitting there like, why didn't you? Like, I just felt like you were gone. I literally use those words.
Yeah.
So just even being able to express that to him, to say, this is where that
is
like
coming from.
And he's like, like there's so much compassion and understanding that gets created.
Well, what I'm hearing is like, there's so much that we can heal that, a lot of our subconscious kind of interactions play out on the day to day, and how people who are currently in partnership can actually bring this up to say, okay, here's how I am not feeling met. Here's how I need to feel met. And so, and then for those who are single, what do you recommend that they do? Perhaps maybe they're watching this, that they can do to understand if currently their needs are being met, maybe in their friendships or in their relationships with their parents currently.
If they start to, even the simplest questions that I first baby step my clients into is just like asking their parents, like, what did you feel, mom, when you were younger with your mom or your dad or your family of
And this is
origin?
good, because a lot of times people are so closed off with kind of going there emotionally with their parents and their elders.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, they're never going to learn. Oh, they're just not open to therapy. Oh, we've been through this 1,000 times. It's going to get into a fight.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Or I already know. They've told me their story of how they were, or I knew my grandmother, I knew my grandfather, I knew how they were. So we just sort of like stop being curious, you know? But the key to that question is feel. Just to emphasize that. It's not just like getting more stories that you've heard before. It's about understanding and feeling something from your parent in a new way and getting some new information that hits you in the heart, where you're like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, I didn't understand that. Or you went through that, you know, or what was that like? Or what did that mean? And some parents will easily start to open up. Some parents will resist it because it's hard for them to go into the emotion themselves. But they will do it for you if you're saying, I need help with this.
Yeah.
You know, they'll do it for you. And if you've lost your parents, then you can use like siblings, you can use aunts and uncles, you can use extended family.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've learned, obviously losing my parents early, I was so curious about asking my like aunts and uncles on both sides. And even, you know, my grandmother outlived my mom. But just, you know, just to get a perspective of like, okay, what was going on? What was happening, you know, in their life around that time, which I feel like informed a lot of the healing and, you know, the capacity to hold. So what about somebody who is in repetitive, like, patterning in relationships? Like they pick the bad guy or they pick the one that's not choosing them, and they constantly pick the one who maybe is betraying them. What's your advice on how to break free of those patterns?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's about asking yourself, okay, first, like, what is the pattern, right? Like, what is the pattern that
like, do you even recognize that there's a pattern, or are you kind of like, no, it's always their fault?
Are you blaming the other person?
Yeah.
Or are you blaming yourself? And that's also preventing you from like seeing a pattern, which is something it's sort of outside of yourself, but in yourself. You know what I mean? It's not like something to blame because everybody's got patterns.
Right.
It's just that it's like, but you're not in self-blame and you're not in blaming the other person or oscillating from those two places. So you're like, okay, what is my pattern? And then starting to ask some of these deeper questions, like, where did it come from in my family? What can I look at? Because so many people will say to me immediately, well, Kavita, I like, my parents raised me great. They're great. They're amazing people. You know, I respect them so much. And I'm like, great. That doesn't mean that, you know, I didn't come from a broken family. Or I love
when they say that. What is that? Can we just define what does broken mean?
No, every family is broken. Okay, every family is broken, and this
is where the ego comes in, or the pride, because it's the pride and the protection that is inbuilt in this, you know, the social fabric.
Yeah, exactly. So I say to them, I'll be like, you know, there's pain. if you're a human being, there's pain with your upbringing. And I know you don't want to look at it because who wants to look at that? But there's pain. And so we need to look at it. You know, we need to look at it. So where is that pain? Because that's what's running the pattern. The pain is running the pattern. So if we go look at it, and then I get a whole slew of, but what's the point of going into the past, especially being South Asian and having so many like guru-like authorities saying like, leave the past, you know, be present.
Leave the past in the past.
Yes, be present. Don't be in the future. Don't be in the past. And they like, and it's true. That's true. But they're not getting the point. It's like, if you go in the past to try to understand what has made you who you are, to then become self-aware and discover what makes you who you are and release things that have been painful, that are stuck in your body and in your system, that is powerful evolvement, self-evolvement, spiritual evolvement, you know?
Well, I think, you know, the whole idea of what I wanted to bring up to your point, though, is the idea of integration, right? We've been through so much in our past, the past relationships, the past patterning. And I think that process that you're helping people walk through is, you know, if we might say we didn't come from a broken home, but if we are trying to heal that past pain in order to then alchemize and transmute all of the stuff that we have either made a meaning in our mind that all, Indian men are bad, or all, relationships are bad, or whatever, or I'm never going to find a person, or I'm never going to find a person that doesn't cheat on me, etc. We've made a meaning somehow back then somewhere.
Yes.
We've either seen it play out in a relationship pattern in our own family.
Yes.
And, a lot of times we will attract those same people, places, circumstances until we unlearn that pattern.
Yes.
or be aware of what is playing out, that pain, and then we can actually integrate it and let it go. And then you're closing energetically that door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're sort of like being like, okay, I'm giving myself the room, the space, the breathing room to like look at this and be with it so that it doesn't rule over me unconsciously, right? And then I think it's so coming back to the like, if you're in this pattern of being in these relationships that just over and over again don't work and are bad for you even, it's like, or unhealthy, I'll say. I don't really like to put things into good or bad, but unhealthy. It's like, what love did you not receive in the way that you deeply desired that you're trying to get from these situations,
Wow.
So it's like, there's this pain to look at. And then there's the love that you deeply desired that you didn't receive and didn't know how to ask for and didn't know that you needed. And how are you then trying to get that through your romantic, love life?
Oh, that's big. Yeah. Yeah, because back then as a child, you didn't know what you needed.
You didn't.
You didn't know how to ask for people to meet your needs because you didn't know what your needs were.
Right.
So now as an adult, we get to change that.
Yeah, we get to discover that and we get to claim it and ask for it, And that doesn't mean that then like if you're in partnership or even if you're single, I think literally everything I'm saying applies to both. But that doesn't mean that your partner is now responsible to like give that to you. But when there's understanding around it, when there's compassion around it, it's healing for you, And I think that's what we're also looking for, is just to feel connected in it.
Right. Well, and also feel heard and understood and
feel heard. Exactly.
So what about the people who, put everything on that one partner? Like, I want them to be my best friend. I want them to be the person that is going to go on long hikes with me and travel the world with me and do all of these things. And if they are not, then they are not my person. And swipe, move on to the next. And all right, this relationship is done. What do you say about that?
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to come back to like, I think you're focused on all the wrong things, right? Because like people will be like, oh, in my last relationship, I mostly speak with women. So they'll say, in my last relationship, he just didn't love to go out the way that I love to go out. I'm just like an extroverted person. He was introverted and it just drained me because it felt like he never wanted to do the things I wanted to do. Right. And so then like, let's just say they get divorced or they break up or whatever. And then the next partnership, they're very fixated on, I'm going to make sure somebody has the same like values as me, interests as me, like if you like biking, that they like to bike too, so that I don't fall back into what I just experienced. But that's not, they're just like, how do I describe it? It's sort of like you're actually managing the same thing. You know what I mean? You're just managing the same thing and you're not actually breaking a pattern. And they think that they're breaking a pattern by doing that. Or I went so fast in that last relationship, I'm going to go slow now. Or it was so like passionate and like lusty, I'm going to go for the best friend, And I'm just like, it has nothing to do with any of that. Actually, we need to go deeper. What is the pattern that's happening here?
So you're saying these kinds of things are not the pattern?
Nope. Here's what I'll say. It's the surface level pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surface level pattern. But if you just try to take the surface level pattern and be like, I want the opposite now, even like so many people, they'll get divorced and you'll see they get married to like somebody that's like literally the opposite. You'll see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And as if that was like solving all the problems from before, but my point is that what we're looking for is that emotional connection that we were not getting before. And we haven't done the work to look at what makes me feel emotionally connected to somebody. What do I need to feel emotionally connected to somebody? And then we're slapping on this label of, oh, I need a best friend, but it's not the best friend. It's like you needed that emotional connection that you didn't get over there. You see what I'm saying?
And so then the work becomes, how do you create that emotional connection?
Yeah. How do you discover what that is for yourself and open up to that?
And it's so big because, as you're sharing, I was like thinking about, okay, wow, how was I, after my first marriage and divorce? And of course I shared a whole bunch of crazy things. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, yep, I was there. Oh, yep, I did that. Oh yeah. I was that. I think we were on your summit for the South Asian Summit, which we'll link below in the show notes. And I was sharing a story about how I created like a spreadsheet with all the people that I dated, because I'm like, okay, I said yes to dating. And I'm going to, do dating as my like part-time job or whatever. And I'm going to, kind of like low-key see my auntie, but not like with all the superficial things. But I'm like, how learned are they? How spiritual are they? How many retreats they went to? I mean, it was a whole thing. But again, I didn't ask myself, how do they make me feel? And so literally my subconscious was like, all right, friend zone everyone.
That's way safer.
And that's so safe because I talk about emotions, but I'm not actually like fully opening up to realize and recognize, well, who's actually making me feel safe?
Yeah.
To open up. And so I think that is a big thing that we have got all wrong. Seema auntie, call Kavita because she should be on the show 1,000%.
Yeah.
So
it's true. It's really true. I watch her and I I'm just like, we need to go deeper.
What is your thoughts about this? Because this is what the young people are now looking for.
I know. Okay. One thing that she always says, and I'm just like, oh, I'm sure other people watching it is.
Yeah. What's the cringe? What's your cringe hot take?
The cringe is like, well, you're not going to get somebody that's perfect. You have to compromise in places, right? Like, and then I'm just sitting there like, even I'm cringing for anybody that's also single, right? Because it's like they get so much of that constantly, right? And I don't think it's about like, I don't think anybody, okay, some people are looking for perfection as a way to feel safe, right? Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But what the deeper question is, instead of saying, stop looking for, it's like, okay, what is happening for you that you are terrified of commitment?
Oh, wow.
Or what is happening for you that it feels so scary to like open up your heart again, right? What's so scary about that? Those are those questions that will open them up to then be available for somebody to like connect with,
Oof. I mean, you've just dropped so many incredible gems. And I think that so often we think our past kind of is going to inform who we then select, but we can course correct. And, I feel like the work that you're doing is so powerful because it is so nuanced.
Yeah, it is.
And there are so many layers to it. And I think so often, at first glance, when we were growing up, we were told, okay, no dating, no, can't date X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, 3. And then all of a sudden you get into like college and they're like, all right, let's talk, clock is ticking. And then God forbid you go through that route and then you get divorced.
Yeah.
And then the questions come up again around all of this. So the dating climate is tough. What is it that people experience and feel when they have worked with you?
Well, I think that they feel more trusting of themselves in the process. They're less anxious about the process. of dating, like it can be angsty.
Yeah. And do you work with both, couples who are newly in a relationship
Yeah.
or, singles, women, men, both?
I work mostly with women, but yes.
Okay. So you work in couples and relationships.
And there are men that I will absolutely work with that are open to emotionally opening up. Not everyone is open to that, even women. But like if you're ready to emotionally open up and you can sense that that's a thing for you, yes.
This is
whoever
the work.
You are.
This is the work.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, like, even I remember when I got married, literally, like coming back to like the fear, right? Like the fear that we're holding on to. Even the day I got married, it was like a 600, big Indian wedding. And I was like, did I do the right thing? Like at the night of, right? Did I do the right thing? And like on paper, it all seemed like, of course you did the right thing. Oh, they're so in love. They're like such a good couple. La, la, la. But like I was sitting there like, did I do that? So there's like, we have that even when you've chosen somebody, even when you've been chosen. Yeah. But anyhow,
we are going to always have these thoughts. And I think a lot of times, because we've also been in our head, that we constantly go back and we judge ourselves. And I can share a story around the same feelings that I felt as well. And I think a lot of times it's like, let's come back down to our heart.
Yeah.
And kind of, instead of kind of judging the situation, because for so long we've been programmed to get validated on right answers from school or accolades or whatever. And now it's like, actually, how does this person make you feel?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting from this entire conversation. The through line is, are you being met?
And it's also claiming, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Because it's both things. It's not just like, okay, they make you feel good, but like, are you opening up in a way where you are sure that you will be met? Like, because they can make you feel good sometimes.
Right.
Like love bombing, can feel good.
Oh, yes.
Being really appreciated can feel really good.
Oh, yeah. Being chosen. Like you're chosen from those Bollywood movies.
Yeah.
Like,
it can feel really good.
Or what was that book that all of the guys read? The Game?
Oh, yeah.
It was Neil Strauss.
I forgot
it's the game, the score, the
It was
truth.
a long time ago.
It
the
was,
Truth, maybe?
Yeah.
No, maybe that's the second book.
Yeah, he has two books.
Yeah, he does.
Please, guys, do not read that book. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, or ladies, you read that book.
I think his second book was like
The Truth.
I think that one was his, like, he went through a journey.
Yeah.
And that was more truth.
That was more truth.
Yeah.
But I think the first one's called The Game.
I think.
Anyways, look it up. It's by Neil Strauss. Maybe I'll get it right and we'll put it in the show notes. Watch it. I mean, read the book, but ladies, if people are doing that, that's a sign. Go run the other direction.
Yeah.
And guys, do not. That is not the forte of trying to find women. Go work with Kavita instead. Okay.
So they feel like more. They feel like they know themselves more. They feel like, and I know that sounds really basic, because people will say that all the time. Like, just be yourself, just be yourself. But like half the time, most people, honestly, we don't really know ourselves, So it's like it is a self-discovery process. And because you open up your heart, and that is the ultimate goal that I have for people. That's why I drop them into their emotional states, because that is what opens your heart. And when you open your heart, you are way more discerning. You are way more discerning than when you are leading with your head, which is counterintuitive.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we let you go.
Yeah.
Where can everyone get a hold of you?
Yeah.
And I know you are releasing this incredible South Asian Dating and Relationship Summit. So tell us all about it.
Yeah. Okay. So in February, we're doing, the first ever South Asian Relationship Summit. Woo! It's going to be amazing. She's on it. Neeta's on it. And we're really talking about the ways that we have been, if you're somebody that's open to self-help, you're open to understanding more about who you are and evolving your life and breaking patterns and all that. And so much of what we hear out there is actually a lot of whitewashed advice. And I want to provide a space, a community where we can all gather to understand what meets our needs as a South Asian community when we are very family oriented, when we have different values, where we're not just going to cut off our mom. We're not going to cut off our dad. You know, we're not going to just stay in a place where we say, oh, my dad's a narcissist, and then that's it, because it doesn't actually feel that great ultimately. It might feel good to diagnose it in the beginning, but ultimately doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel like if my dad were to die tomorrow and I just saw him in this one way, how would I feel, you know? And so it's really talking to that dynamic of really, how do we create healthy relationships for ourselves, given our values and our spiritual background and where we came from.
So true. It reminds me of, I don't know if you saw the bit by Hassan Minhaj where he was like sharing how he was in therapy and I think he fired his white therapist because he was sharing something about like, well, I have to call my mom every day. I call my mom every day. And if I don't call my mom, she's going to call me. And you know, the therapist who was white, she was like, well, you know, your mom needs to learn about boundaries. It's so funny. And it's like, nuance, woman. Clearly you don't have any brown friends in your life because you cannot do that, actually.
Or like if you even I talk to my mom sometimes 3 times a day because we're just like going about logistical things sometimes. But like we'll talk 3 times a day. Like to some people that's codependent.
I know.
And I'm like,
I mean, I'm all here for it because I think, but that's what makes it so unique. And I think that's why the work that you're doing is going to meet so many people that can really alchemize all of the layers and the nuances. Yeah. And you do that so beautifully. So we will link that in the show notes as well. 2 last questions in our spill the chai round, because I know we have to go. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Okay. Favorite thing that you like to do with your son?
Oh, like we just snuggle in bed and chat at night. It's just the sweetest moment in time.
Gosh. What, he's 5, 6?
He's 6.
Oh, the best.
Yeah. And then I sing mantras and prayers and stuff. It's really sweet.
Biggest relationship red flag?
Oh, lack of presence.
Most common relationship myth?
That I need to be whole and complete before I meet somebody that's whole and complete.
Ooh, so good. One word that describes this season of life?
Oh, adulting.
Adulting, I love it. All right, love. So where can we follow you on Instagram?
Okay, so at Love Kavita. So you can follow me there. And then my website is kavitajhaveri.com. So yeah,
okay,
you can follow me there.
Amazing. Thank you, love, for all of your wisdom, all how you've been showing up to just be there for our most precious relationship, which is finding the one. Not easy, especially with all of the layership and the layers and the dynamics that we have to go through. So I'm so excited that people get to learn from you and definitely come to the relationship summit. We're going to link it in the show notes. And our episode is so fun and so juicy.
This is so good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you so much, love.
Thank you for having me.
And for everyone watching, welcome to the other side. Kavita is such a breath of fresh air. She keeps it real. And I know she adds in all of the emotional and the spiritual layers that oftentimes we forget when we are perhaps maybe more of in our head. So if you have a bestie, a friend, a brother, a sister, a cousin that could use this episode, go ahead and share this with them to be more brave in their love relationships, especially if they're dating again, if they're on the scene again, or maybe if they are going through a crazy time. You know, kids add another layer into the mix of keeping things juicy and sacred and loving. And there's so many other patterns, as you heard in the episode today, that can come up, especially in healing our familial dynamics and relationship dynamics. Kavita does this so well. And you can actually follow her at Love Kavita. And I'm going to link our episode from her Love Summit in the show notes. You can actually get access to that. It's completely free. And I think it's going to help so many people. So if you are watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? If this has has added any value, perspective shift in your life, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and drop a comment below. What did you love? If you love watching this on any of the other platforms, go ahead and click the like button on iTunes, Spotify, and or Instagram, and tag what your favorite part of the episode was. Myself at Neeta Bhushan, or The Brave Table, or at Love Kavita. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, I will see you.